I hope PPT is visible now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Once I'll check the audio. So in the last few classes, we are discussing about the dislocation, the point imperfection, the line imperfection. Line imperfections are nothing but a dislocation, and planar defects, volume defect. And because of these defect, the failure of the material takes place. And we are considering three types of failure here. One is fracture, one more is fatigue, and one more is creep. As per your syllabus, you have to concentrate more on these three types of failure. Most of the metals are failed by these three ways. And because of those imperfection, this failure may take place. That's why I took more classes for imperfection, especially for the module 1. And as for your second test is considered, you have module 2, excluding steels and cast iron, that is already covered for first test. And module 4, that is the application part, that's composite material, that is for the second test portion. And your case study questions and innovative questions comes from the composite material, and especially application of composite material. There are three types of composite material you have to study. One is metal matrix composite, and one more is polymer matrix composite, and one more is ceramic matrix composite. The metal matrix composite and polymer matrix composite applications will come under innovative and case study question. Module 4, it is only application. You can say applied material science. There is no much fundamentals you are studying, just properties, the structure, and application. Those part you are studying. But module 2 and module 3, you are studying more fundamental. That's why I required more time for the module 3. So if you go on spend more time on module 2 and module 3, we don't get sufficient time for module 4 and module 5. That's why I'm skipping one module. So straight away I'll go with module 4. Then third test you will start with module 3. Now, so when you're talking about the fracture, so you cannot give your own definition for the fracture in the test or in the examination or during your interview, etc. If you go according to the definition, so fracture is a separation or fragmentation of a solid body into two or more parts under the action of load. This is very important. It is under the action of load. Even though sometimes, if you suppose we have the glass, if we heat it, so it may fractures. So there may be thermal loading, that is referred as thermal stresses. Under the load means not necessarily you have to apply the load only. If you heat some metals, there is an expansion and contraction. Because of expansion and contraction also, some thermal stresses will be developed and thermal loading will be, internal loading will be generated. So those stresses are referred as thermal stresses. That I think some part you are studying in your mechanics of material. There may be one few problems. But it is a separation or fragmentation of a solid body into two or more parts. That is very important. It is total separation. There is one more plastic deformation. It is not a separation. Imagine you have a steel rod, especially used for building construction. It can be bent into a required size, required shape. We can say required shape. So where it is undergo plastic deformation, there is no fracture. So it can result from a purely mechanical effect, such as an applied or residual stresses, or combination of mechanical and environmental effect. I think combination of mechanical and environmental effect, there is, I think in the chemistry you studied about corrosion. So because of the corrosion, there is a pitting will be formed. Those are referred to the pitting corrosion. So small pits will be formed or small notches will be formed, micro notches. I think yesterday we finished one test impact testing for one batch. There you are making U notch or V notch. So at that particular point, the fracture takes place. Those are the macroscopic notches. But because of corrosion, there's a pitting corrosion. There's a one more type of corrosion. It is called the pitting corrosion. Because of small pits. Small pits means don't get your long jump pit or high jump pit. Small pits, micro pits of depth maybe 0.1 mm or a few microns. Because of that, fraction may occur under those points. Like impact testing, the fracture occurs at the notch point only, not at any other point. Or combination of mechanical, it is if you have only pits or only notches or pits, so it is not fractures. Only when it is subject to mechanical loading, it's fractures. Or there is a one more term that is referred to the residual stresses. I think you have studied about engineering stresses. It may be nominal stress. Once you say nominal, it is either tensile or compression. There is a one more type of stress. It is referred to the shear stress. Nominal stress, the loading is perpendicular and your loading direction is perpendicular to the cross section area. In the case of shear stress, the loading direction area with and resisting area, loading direction, there is a one is loading direction and one more is area which resists the applied load. Both are in the same plane or in the same direction. If you consider fan rod, once you try to pull the fan rod, the fourth direction is vertical, but area which resists the applied load is parallel or horizontal. You can imagine cut section of the fan rod, it is horizontal, but loading direction is vertical. That is what the normal stress. Shear stress, simple is cutting of paper. But there is a one more stress that is referred as, I think, the residual stress. The residual stresses are mainly because, imagine you have done some plastic deformation. Because of the plastic deformation, some stresses will be there. But if you consider conventional stress, whenever you apply load, there is a stresses will be developed. So like a spring, if you apply load, the material will undergo deformation and stresses will be developed. That you can understand better. But when you come to residual stresses, there is no external loading, but still there are some stresses. So those stresses are referred as residual stresses. Mainly because of during your fabrication process, like your welding process or casting process or some metal forming process like wire drawing, the drawing operation or extrusion operation, those are the metal forming operation. During those operations, some stresses will be developed inside the material. Even though loads are removed from the component, still some amount of stresses are there. So just best example I can give you, imagine you are entering on writing on examination, like it's a second PU examination. So your question paper is not given. You entered into the examination hall. So internally we can feel some stresses. But after if your question paper is very tough, you may additional stresses may generate. But before giving the question paper itself, so we have some amount of stress. In the similar way, so even though there is no external mechanical loading, still imagine there is one component, there may be some amount of internal stresses. There is a difference between the stresses you are studying in mechanics of material. So where load is applied, because of that load, such stresses will be developed. But when you come to internal stresses or residual stresses, even though there is no external loading, still some amount of stresses will be there in the material. Such type of stresses are referred as residual stresses, but we cannot measure the residual stresses by using your conducting test in material testing laboratory by tensile test or compression or shear test. They require separate non-destructive testing like radiography testing, X-ray diffraction testing. So it is very costly. Tests are required, especially for find out residual stress, especially important component of aerospace or spacecraft component or satellite component. So there they'll undergo testing what is the residual stresses in the material. Because of the residual stresses, the component may fail. Imagine the external loading there may be 100 megapascal. Already some amount of residual stresses will be there. But if you imagine the residual stress magnitude is around 20 megapascal, and already external stress is there around 100 megapascal, then total stress in the member is 20 plus 100. It is 120 megapascal, including your residual stresses. But residual stresses, so we require sophisticated techniques to measure residual stresses. Then applied stresses may be either tensile, compression, or shear, torsion, that already you know. Depending on the type of load, the load means your stress. Fracture may be termed as tensile fracture. Like if you pull the steel rod, the steel wire, it may breaks or fractures. Then you can say it is a tensile fracture. Compressive fracture means if you applied compressive load, if you hit the hammer, you hit the stone by hammer, it may fractures. That is after the compressive fracture, where it is subject to compressive loading. So in material testing laboratory, you are conducting one test where you are keeping the brittle material like cast iron. You are applying compressive loading. Because of the compressive loading, material may fractures. That we can experience in material testing laboratory. It is compressive fracture. Already we have finished tensile test. In the tensile test also, it is fractures into two pieces. We have where the specimen is mounted between upper jaw and lower jaw, and once it is pulled, it is fractured. That is a tensile fracture. Tensile test is the best example for the tensile fracture. It may be ductile or brittle. Compressive fracture, especially the compression test on the brittle material, is comes under fatigue fracture. Fatigue now you don't understand because you have to cover. Once you study the fatigue, so you will understand better. Creep, there is one more topic in the top chapter, but at present you can understand what is tensile fracture. Example is, take the steel rod, you pull it. So with huge amount of force, it fractures into two pieces. Compression, push the steel, like a hard material or brittle material, it fractures. So there are different types of fractures are there. One is low temperature tensile fracture. So mainly because of the fracture means, if you talk, that is the external level. What we saw in material testing laboratory, we saw only the externally, we can see the fracture. What is happening inside the material is nothing but there are atoms. The one atom is bonding with another atom, and these atoms, there is a separation of atomic bonding under static loading, or it may be sometimes dynamic loading also. I think for one batch we have conducted impact testing where material is subject to dynamic loading. The specimen, notched specimen, fractures. That is not a static loading. But UTM, tensile test or compression test, we can say it is almost static because load is applied very steadily. Slowly, you are not applying suddenly. Those can be considered as static loading. And one more example, beams also, building beams, it may fracture over a period of time, 10 to 15 years, because of static loading. High temperature tensile fracture, especially when members are subject to very high temperature, then at the same time it is subject to the loading. Imagine you have the steel rod, if you heat it to the higher temperature, it not fractures. If it is heated to higher temperature, as well as if it is pulled, if you pull the steel rod, then it fractures. And fatigue fracture, we are going to discuss in details in the next topic, the fatigue and creep fracture. And whenever material is subject to repeated loading or changing loading or stress reversal, then fracture occur. Then such type of fractures are referred as a fatigue fracture. Best example is your connecting rod. So it is subject to repeated stresses, the continuous stresses or stress reversal. So then it is referred as a fatigue fracture. So then depending on ability of material to undergo plastic deformation before the fracture, two fracture modes can be defined. So ability of the material to undergo plastic deformation. Now you are talking about the plastic deformation. Plastic deformation may occur by slipping, by twinning process. You have to remember, plastic deformation In the internally, in the grain level, it may occur by slipping. The one grain will slip over the another grain that you can feel. Suppose there is a sand pit, in the long jump, like a high jump or long jump pit, there is sand is there. If you jump into the sand, the one sand grain will slips or slides over another sand grain. In the similar way, in the microstructure or in the metal consists of many grains or many crystals. Hence, those metals are referred as a polycrystalline material. So, when it is subject to loading, it may undergo deformation because of defect in the material. Like it may be point defect, or it may be dislocation or line defect. It may be edge dislocation or screw dislocation, or it may be your surface defect, dislocation defect like tilt boundary, grain boundaries, or it may be volume defect. Because of those defects, the material will undergo plastic deformation. But in simple way, the plastic deformation may be caused by two major phenomena. One is slipping, one more is twinning. And whenever there is a plastic deformation, the atomic arrangement will be changes. The bonding, the center distance between the atoms will be changed. You can imagine like this. So whenever you imagine we have metal, there are metal atom A and atom B. We are considering only two atoms, atom A and atom B. Once it is stretched, or once it is applied some tensile loading on the specimen, the atomic distance will be increases, or there may be there may be rearrangement of the atoms. Depending upon how the rearrangement of atoms will take place or grains will take place, the complete plastic deformation will be classified into twinning as well as the slipping. So that already you have seen some photos on slipping. So either it may be brittle fracture or ductile fracture. So let it be aluminium. So when aluminium is subject to loading, it may fractures. Then it will be the ductile fracture. If you imagine you have the glass, if you drop the glass, it may fractures. Or if you imagine you have the stone, if you hit with hammer, it may fractures. Then it is a brittle fracture. But in the case of brittle fracture, the amount of plastic deformation is very, very small. Tensile test, you are applying the load, there is a huge amount of plastic deformation. You may get around 1 mm, 2 mm, 3 mm, out of 5 mm plastic deformation. So there will be a huge amount of plastic deformation before it fails. A necking will be formed, then further it elongates, then finally it fails. Like a rubber band. If you apply full the rubber band, it elongates. There is a huge amount of plastic deformation, elongation, then only it fails. That is one of the important property of ductile fracture. So one more is brittle fracture, like a breaking of the glass. Then if you pull the, imagine we have some arrangement. So imagine if you pull the glass, so it will not undergo deformation like a rubber band. So there may be small amount of elastic or plastic deformation, and finally it fractures. I think you cleared about ductile and brittle fracture, because normally on standard question, what are the difference between ductile fracture and brittle fracture? So one is plastic deformation. In ductile, there is a huge amount of plastic deformation. In brittle fracture, there may not be any plastic deformation, or there may be small amount of plastic deformation, especially in the caster. Now again, every ductile fracture as well as brittle fracture we can define, or we can explain with respect to stress strain diagram. In material testing laboratory, once again you are conducting a tensile test. So now you can see here brittle fracture. So up to this point, I think PPT is visible. I hope everything is fine. Okay, we can see we are talking about the ductility. So now if the length of the stress strain diagram, I'm not talking about this complete box, the length of it, this is a fracture point. Here again it is a fracture point. So distance between this, if the length of the stress strain diagram, stress strain curve is more like here, then we can say that there is a huge amount of plastic deformation. That simple is there is a huge amount of deformation. because of huge amount of deformation, there is a huge strain in the ductile material. In the steel or copper or aluminum, we pull it, it elongates. You can imagine like a rubber, so it elongates, then at the end it fractures. But like a bit of glass, imagine you have a glass, take two cutting pliers, so hold it and pull it without any deformation, it fractures. But still there may be small amount of deformation in cast iron, etc. So then, so here, length of the stress strain diagram is less means it is more brittle material. If the length of the stress strain diagram is more means it is a more ductile material or highly ductile material. By seeing stress strain diagram itself, we can decide, we can conclude or infer the whether material is the ductile material or brittle material. That normally there is an inference after drawing stress strain diagram. Most of the time, after not only writing, conducting test in like material testing laboratory. Once you go to the industries, you have to conduct some test. From that, you have to give inference or conclusion. What is the type of material? How material behaves? Those things are required. The ductile fracture. One important point you have to remember is exhibit the substantial plastic deformation. Substantial means it's a more plastic deformation and with high energy absorption before it fractures. That means the area under the stress strain diagram for here, ductile. If the area under the stress strain, there is one more inference we can get it from the stress strain diagram or conclusion from the stress strain diagram. If the area below stress strain diagram is more means it's a more tougher material. At the same time, it's a more ductile material. It undergoes huge amount of plastic deformation. Before it fractures, it absorbs maximum amount of plastic deformation. So presence of plastic deformation gives warning that fracture is imminent. So imminent. So that means if it is like imagine you have the building beams. So you can imagine the building beams, multi-store building beams without any the steel reinforcement. Without steel reinforcement also, it can withstand a small amount of load. Suppose if it is excessive load, it may collapse suddenly. So that's why they are putting reinforcement, because reinforcement is the steel reinforcement. So because of steel reinforcement, the building beams will not collapse or fractures, because it is the steels are highly ductile material. The concrete is the brittle material. Because of combination of ductile and brittle material, bending stresses will be reduced. Best example is you can imagine beam. You can imagine the beam without any reinforcement or steel rod. So the multi-story building. So then it may fail at any time. It may take compressive load, especially the building stone, the stones. So it can take huge amount of compressive load because of that they are putting in the foundation. Nowadays they don't use the foundation stones also. For 1 floor or 2 floor, they use foundation stones because it will take huge amount of compressive load. It will not take any tensile load. But because of the huge amount of plastic deformation, so you can take necessary steps to prevent disaster. Imagine you have the crankshaft. The crankshaft bends or it undergoes some amount of plastic deformation. It hits the crankcase. So it hits the crankcase, it makes noise. So whenever there is a noise, you can stop the vehicle. Or imagine you have some bearings, it worn out. So whenever it worn out, especially fan bearings, etc., because of excessive deformation, it causes some amount of vibration, it causes some amount of noise. Even mixer grinder also, conventional or domestic mixer grinder also. If there is some bend, some shafts are bent, it causes huge amount of vibration noise. That is because there is a huge amount of plastic deformation. There is a warning. So strain energy required to induce ductile fracture is more, because to fracture ductile material you require more energy. Imagine you have a steel rod, you have to fracture into 2 pieces. You cannot pull it and you cannot fracture. But imagine you have a stone, you can throw the stone to the one more hard body or cement concrete, it may break, or glass, it may break, because it absorbs only less amount of energy. It is capable of resisting only small amount of loading. So that the same thing is shown. You are talking in terms of strain energy. Strain energy required. Strain energy is nothing but I think strain energy is a new term for you. What is strain energy? Can you give an example? Forget about telling what is strain energy. What is strain energy? One of you can tell. You are talking about a strain. You studied about strain. There is a one subject itself. It is not fracture. Fracture is a small topic. There is a fracture mechanics is a one more subject. Even in our college, we have MTech in machine design. There is a one more subject, compulsory subject. It is a fracture mechanics. Don't think that fracture is only one small topic. Strain energy is nothing but, imagine, I'll give an example. Imagine you have the spring, you are pushed the spring, so it undergo deformation. You are removing the load. So once you remove the load, the spring will come back to the original position. You are not pulling the spring, it will come back to the original position. So why it will comes to original position? Because so it has some energy because of the deformation. That deformation is energy is nothing but it is referred as a strain energy. Spring, you can imagine you have pushed the spring. So whenever you push it, it will undergo deformation. Because of the deformation, there is a strain. Because of the strain, some amount of strain energy is stored in the body. That is referred as a strain energy. Complete mechanics, we have around 5 to 6 design related subject. The complete design fundamental for those design related subject. You're not studying in depth about those design related subject in your engineering course, but fundamental requirement is the strain energy. If you're going to do some, those who are really interested in aerospace engineer or automotive engineers or etc., you go for master degree, etc. The whole subject you're talking about strain energy. There is one more subject referred as strain. Theory of elasticity or theory of plasticity. You are writing equation for strain energy, and you are going to study one more subject, finite element method, in 6th semester. So almost all module you have to get the strain energy equation in terms of integral, double integral, single integral, or triple integral. The ductile fracture, the most of the time metals, I'll go a little bit fast because those are the basic, I think you can understand better. So there is an extensive plastic deformation. The crack is stable and resist further extension unless applied stress is increased. So especially for the ductile fracture, so you have to apply more amount of load, then only crack will propagate. Imagine you have one building, the old building, there may be small amount of crack. The beam, there is a crack. So crack will not propagate and fails. Even our bones also, there may be a small amount of micro cracks or hairline cracks. Don't think that your bone is fractured. Only when it is met with some accident, etc. So we may end with the fracture. But to crack to propagate, we require certain amount of loading is required. Otherwise, it will not propagate. The crack propagation, you are talking about the J integral, the complete in fracture mechanics. Don't worry about all those things. Only when if you crack, each and every material, there may be micro cracks. Even though if you're going for a sophisticated machining operation or sophisticated welding operation, forging operation, still there may be micro cracks. So that those cracks will not propagate and phase by fracture because it requires some more additional forces. So that again, the same thing you're saying, there is a more amount of plastic deformation takes place. The fracture relatively slow. If it is a metal, you are pulling it, your tensile testers you have spent around 5 minutes. So only initially there is small amount of deformation, then only it fractures. But if it is a brittle material, it fractures like a dropping of the glass bottle. So ductile fracture is two types. One is highly ductile, especially this gold. Gold is highly ductile material, and moderately ductile material like metals, copper, aluminum, steel, all comes under moderately ductile material. Even platinum, gold, silver, those will comes under highly ductile material. So now this is almost exactly what is happening in the tensile test. So this is a specimen, you are applying the load. Small crack or a crack will be formed here. The small defect is there. It may be a small missing atoms. The small voids will be formed once it is subject to loading. These voids will open further. That is referred as crack propagation. And the crack, if we apply the load further and further, the crack will propagate. Finally, it fractures. You can say this is a cup and cone fracture. There is a fibrous surface. It's not a plain surface. In the case of brittle material, so it may be surface may be smooth, but here its surface is the fibrous surface, rough surface. Cup and cone fracture we can observe in tensile test. I think for B1 and B2 batches already you have finished tensile test. You've seen the cup and cone fracture. So now one more diagram showing ductile fracture. So it's a tensile test specimen. There may be internal defect, like in casting there may be porosity. You're talking about the porosity, blowholes, etc. So there may be defect in the material. Already small micro holes or voids in the material. Once it is subject to loading, those void will open. If once it is subject to tensile loading, the crack grows here, like crack grows at 90 degree to the applied load. This is the vertical direction of the applied load. The crack will propagate along horizontal direction. Then maximum shear. Then so there is a maximum shear stress at 45 degree. That little bit of concept is required, because whenever shearing takes place at 45 degree, normally in the ductile material, the crack will propagate. The finally fractures. You can see cup and cone fracture, but surface is fibrous in the case of ductile fracture. But in the case of brittle fracture, the surface is almost smooth surface. Same thing is shown here. One more diagram. I will not. So now imagine is a cross section. The initial necking. The once load is applied at certain point, diameter is reduces, and that is referred as necking process. The void formation, because they lose whenever it is subject to loading, the tensile loading. There is atoms, especially in the grain boundary. Atoms are not packed. Not bonding is not perfect, because at the grain boundary, the atomic distance, the center to center distance, it varies. Because of that, grain boundary is one of the imperfection which causes most of the fracture, fatigue, or creep. Now you should know and imagine what is grain boundary, what we studied in your first module. And void formation takes place. That means atoms will lose the bonding and it will separate out. Then so void coherence it takes place, and then finally many voids will join together and it makes bigger void, or it is referred as a crack. The crack will propagate further. The finally cup and cone fracture takes place. So this thing, so that already you can see this is if it is a cup and cone fracture. This schematic diagram. This is microscopic examination. This is a cup and cone fracture. This is the actual sketch, the actual image of fractured surface. This is a schematic sketch for the test exams. This sketch is sufficient, but this is the actual photograph. So you can see this is one more actual photograph, and similar type of fractures you can observe. It's already observed. B1, B2 batches we finished. Similar type of fractured surface. This is cup. This is cone, and this is cup and cone fracture. That already we have explained. Brittle fractures, like a example of brittle fracture is the fracture of glasses, the stones, the ceramic material. And if we compare, the less plastic deformation, less deformation, and crack propagation is very, very fast. That's why most of the automotive chassis is made of ductile material. They don't use cast iron for the chassis of the automotive. Chassis or beams, building bridges are there. Bridges, they don't use the cast iron bridges. If you use cast iron, at any time it may collapse. We have amphitheater, all made up of steel. Steel is a ductile material. It fractures by ductile because ductile fracture. If you use the cast iron at any time, even for the light wind also, whole the structure may fail because the crack propagation is very, very fast. We don't have time to evacuate people in the building. So that's why they don't use any brittle material for reinforcement. Then during explosion of this even World Trade Center, WTC, so because the building beams are made of steel, and building is not collapsed within a few seconds or few minutes. Even still, if you can Google it and you can find out that complete explosion of this complete collapse of the WTC, you can see. So there is a lot of experiment with this. Investigation also happened. That almost it took almost 30, around more than few, almost more than 15 to 20 minutes to the collapse of the complete building. During that time, most of the people are evacuated. Otherwise, there may be thousands of people might have died, because buildings, beams, and columns have the steel structure, steel material. So it undergo slow fracture, because crack propagation rate is very small. That's why they have sufficient time. That's why building beams are made of steel. Not they don't use cast iron for the building beams. If you use cast iron, the building may collapse at any time. You may see today one building, after 1 week, the building may disappear because of the collapse. That's a technical reason. Especially it comes under even ice. Ice comes under brittle fracture. Ice may be very hard, ice pieces. If you drop it, it breaks. So this is the surface. You can see here in this ductile fracture, we get cup and cone, but brittle fracture, so it is almost flat. So here you can observe brittle fracture, especially if you use nut and bolts also made of steel material, ductile material. They don't use brittle material. But so because of some hardening process, because of continuous strains, that is about the strain hardening process, even though the steel bolts are made of ductile material like a steel, there may be one more process, that is about a strain hardening process. The strain, because of the strain hardening process, the material may become brittle, and brittle, that may be fracture. Brittle fracture is an example for a brittle fracture. So here you don't get cup and cone, it is fracture like this. This is a cup and cone fracture, this is a brittle comparison. These are already I explained. Tendency for brittle increases with decreasing temperature. At low temperature, there will be more tendency of brittle fracture. Even though your aluminum steel you are referring as a ductile material, it is only at room temperature or above room temperature. If you take the material, steel material, to around minus 60 degrees Celsius or minus 100 degrees Celsius, the steel become brittle and brittle. There is a strain rate or rate of loading. The strain rate is very high in the case of impact loading. I think for one batch, B1 batch, I think we finished impact testing. The load is applied with high velocity. The strain rate is very high. Strain rate is, we have the change in length divided by original length is the strain. The strain divided by time. Imagine you have a rubber band, original length is 10 mm, you expanded, elongated to 20 mm. How much time you take? If you take around 10 seconds in one case, in another case you took only 1 second. When you took 1 second, the strain rate is very high, because the deformation takes place very fastly. Even though it is a ductile material, your fracture may be brittle. That you have to remember. So even though there is a ductile material, when ductile material is subject to loading at very low temperature, it may undergo brittle fracture. Even though ductile material, it undergo huge amount of strain rate, or loading is very fast, then again it may undergo brittle fracture. Then intergranular fracture and intragranular fracture. So again, to understand intergranular and intragranular fracture, you have to imagine the grain. The grain, there is a grain boundary. So grain boundary, if fracture or crack propagates along the grain boundary, then it is referred as intergranular fracture. So you have a crack, the crack is propagated along the grain boundary, then it is referred as a intergranular fracture. I have one more photos also it show. Intragranular fracture is it causes the grain, it cuts the grain. Now it will not move along the grain boundary. So that is, I think, here you can observe, this is the actual photograph. Intergranular fracture caused by hydrogen embrittlement. So imagine you have the steel, there are some material. So when it is subject to hydrogen, so material become brittle. Even though it is a ductile material, it become brittle. That is referred as embrittlement. But so here you can observe things. If you closely observe this, here it's a grain. So your crack passes, I think, intergranular. So these are the grain. This is one grain. This is one more grain. This is one more grain. Now you should be able to imagine. That's why you have spent huge amount of time to understand what is grain, what is phase, etc. Here there is one is dark phase and one more is white phase. Again, within the white phase, PHASE, there may be many grain. This is one grain, this is one more grain. Here there is a crack. The crack will propagate like this along the grain boundary. So that means, so imagine you are in a college compound, you can jump into the next compound across the compound wall, then it is referred as the intragranular. But we can go to the next site by first you went going out from the campus through using main gate, then going through main Dodbadpura the highway, then taking left turn or right turn because you are following the compound wall. You are going out from the campus, then you are following the compound wall. If you are moving along the compound wall, and finally you are reaching some site adjacent to our college. That is nothing but your intergranular. So your crack will propagate along the grain boundary. Now you should be able to what is grain. The grain, you are starting from atom, then you are going for the unit cell. Unit cell joined together, and finally it forms grain or crystal. And there are many crystals in the metal. Hence, metals are referred as a polycrystalline material. The polycrystalline material, there are many grains or many crystals. So if the crack propagate along the grain, or people move, imagine some people are, especially the military defense people, they move along the Indo-Pakistan border. Some people, they cross the Indo-Pakistan border also, like a terrorist, etc. So then, if you just cross, then it will become intragranular. If you move along the grain or along the border, then it is referred as intergranular packing. There are some schematic sketches in the book. You can notes also. It is there schematic sketch. No need to draw this sketch. This is actual grain. You have to understand this grain structure. So now we can observe transgranular, or this is a schematic sketch. In the examination, if you write this type of sketch is sufficient. Transgranular means intragranular. Imagine a crack. The crack will break or propagate across the grain. You can see a crack will propagate across the grain. Then it is transgranular. The brittle versus ductile. The brittle fracture, the less plastic deformation. Ductile fracture, there is a more plastic deformation. More energy is stored, more energy is required, more force is required. So we can compare brittle and ductile fracture with respect to your stress strain diagram also. The ductile means length of the stress strain diagram is more, then it is referred as a ductile material. If the length of the stress strain diagram is more, means there is a more strain, more deformation, more plastic deformation. Hence, it comes under ductile. We can decide whether it is a material ductile or brittle by just plotting stress strain diagram. If it's a brittle, there is a less plastic deformation, especially in the compression test. We are going to do two tests. One is compression test on brittle material. So one more is compression test on ductile material. Then you have to plot both stress strain diagram for brittle and ductile material. Then you can compare. So where we have plastic deformation. So now this is one more diagram. If it is like a highly brittle material like a concrete, it undergoes small amount of deformation and it fails. If it is like a steel material, it undergoes huge amount of deformation. It's a medium ductile material. It undergoes cup and cone fracture, it fails. If you go for like a gold or silver, it becomes silver. It's a highly ductile material. Gold is highly ductile material. So you can deform, you can make it to small thin wires because of high ductility. If the gold or silver, etc., so it can elongate without any plastic deformation. Finally, you get point. It is not a cup and cone fracture for the highly ductile. For highly ductile material, the length of the stress diagram is more here. You can observe the length of the stress diagram is more. There's a comparison already explained. It is there in the books also. Now you can see brittle fracture. This is, I think you can observe in the case of already you observed in impact testing. I have finished one experiment for B1 batch. You have finished impact testing for ductile fracture. You have seen, I think yesterday batches you have seen similar type of photos. Actual photos you have seen. It has happened in our lab. So this is ductile brittle fracture. I am giving so many photos. All photos are not required, just to understand the concept. There is a shear fracture. So whenever it's subject to shear loading, again shear fracture occurs. That is not so important. The preference of ductile over brittle material, why means? So there is no sudden failure of the material. There is an initial warning deformation. Like I give an example of crankshaft. If crankshaft undergo deformation, imagine it undergo plastic deformation. Whenever it undergo plastic deformation, it hits the casing, then it causes noise. Even even turbines also. The turbine blade, if you undergo huge amount of plastic deformation, the clearance between tip of the turbine blade and casing is very, very small, maybe a few mm or fraction of the mm. If there's an elongation, it hits, then it causes noise, so that you can stop the machine. That's one of the advantages. So again, this already you have seen the ductile fracture and brittle fracture. Study of the fracture surface. There is a separate area that is called fractography. So that area is mainly concerned with studying the surface fracture. Suppose there is a Boeing, the aircraft fails, fractures, or some component fails, then there is a separate investigation team, because especially aircraft crashes, there is a separate investigating team. They will collect each and every component. They will analyze the surfaces, how it is fractured, what are the causes, how you can improve the fracture resistance. It is not, don't think that fracture is a very simple subject. So ductile fracture already you have seen this photo. There's a void will be formed and void will join, and finally crack will propagate and finally takes place. The ductile to brittle transition I'll explain tomorrow. Even the material is ductile, so ductile material becomes it's transformed to brittle also. So like a transition bit, I'll explain you in the next class. Now if you in hurry, if you explain, you don't understand, again a little bit of fundamentals required. Some small derivations are there. Then some problems, even though syllabus they are not mentioned, but better to do those earlier. They are mentioned, but now they are not mentioned of the derivations, etc. They mention type 1, type 2, type 3 fracture. I think if you have any doubt, we can discuss now. Those are joined, just I think those are not entered your USN number. Please enter your USN number. You type your name in the chat box, type your name and USN number. Those are not entered. So I'll stop the class. I think next class I may require around 10 minutes time for to finish fracture. Then I'll go for the fatigue. After finish the fatigue, I'll go for the finish. That is almost fatigue creep fracture is around half of your second module. I think this week I'm going to finish fatigue creep and fracture as far as possible. If something is pending, we'll be continuing the next week. For your second test, your module 2 and module 2 except your cast iron, the steel and cast iron, and module 4, the composite material is there for your test. Okay, I think you are continuing with the same link. I'll stop the class. Okay, we'll meet tomorrow. I hope there is no doubt. If you have any doubt, tomorrow we can discuss.